Aloha, I'm Phyllis Blees, the host today on Think Tech Hawaii of The Creative Life, a show of the American Creativity Association, which I serve as president. Today's topic is how to live creatively. Our guest is Ann Medlock, who exemplifies the creative life and has been honored by the American Creativity Association. Ann is the creator of the Giraffe Heroes Project, a nonprofit that honors people who stick their necks out for the common good and tell their stories. After almost 40 years of that work, there are now over 1,000 free stories of real heroes at giraffe.com. Nope, that's giraffe.org, I believe. There are also free classroom materials there for you, which the National Education Association has honored Ann for as an innovative educator. Ann also produces novels, poems, editorials, and speeches. And these days, she's a growing social media presence and has 2 books in progress. The list goes on and on as Ann approaches her 88th birthday. It is now my pleasure to introduce Ann Medlock. Aloha, Ann.
Aloha, aloha.
It's so nice to be back with you after some time that we had originally met. I've been telling about your stories and a lifetime of storytelling. I wonder, in the more than 1,000 that you have told about heroes, who are some of your favorites?
Yeah, it's always a difficult question because I love them all, and especially the last one I wrote. But I figured out a few that I think you'd find really interesting. And one of them is Beverly Graham. And this is a woman who was a rock star in the Seattle music circuit. She was a professional bodybuilder, with the competitive thing.
Hmm.
And she was suddenly struck with a disabling disease. She collapsed during a performance and woke up in a hospital with a diagnosis of muscular dystrophy, really bad attack. So you can't be a bodybuilder or a rocker if you're just knocked out by a disease like that. So she had to rethink her life. Like, what am I now? And she said in the hospital, she kept thinking about the homeless people she would see at night leaving the club after playing a gig. And she really wanted to help them, but she wasn't sure how. So what she worked out was something called Operation Sac Lunch. And she started, when she felt, a little better, making bag lunches, very healthy food, as much as she could fit into a bag. And she went downtown to an area of Seattle where there were a lot of hungry people. And she got arrested. The police arrested her for feeding the homeless. So she had to deal with that. Now how do I deal with this? Talk about getting thrown curved balls. So she just hung in there. She has now fed literally millions of healthy meals to hungry people. The Operation Sac Lunch has been recognized all over the world as a model for dealing with street people who are hungry. She's a first responder when there's an emergency. Operation Sac Lunch is called to come quick with food. I mean, it's fabulous what she's done with this curved ball that was thrown at her, that her life was not going to be what she thought it was.
Wow.
And here there are 2 guys, Azim and Ples. Azim Kamisa is the man on the left in that photo, and Ples Felix is the man on the right. And they're each holding a picture. And those pictures are Azim's son and Ples's grandson. Is so, all too often a grandfather raising his grandchildren because the generation there got kind of lost and had to be saved by their families. So he was raising his grandson. on a night, the first night that the kid ever disobeyed his grandfather, he went to a gang initiation and was told that his assignment to get into the gang was that he had to get enough pizza to feed the gang, and he wasn't to pay for it. So he ordered the pizzas. The delivery guy came with the pizzas. He said, "I'm not paying you." And so the guy delivering them was getting back in the truck, and this boy, Tony, shot him. And it was Azim's son. He was earning money to pay his college tuition fees. The plus Azim gets the message that his son is dead. That's about as big a curveball as you can be thrown, right? I mean, like, what do you do with that? And one of the things he did was find Pless and go to him and say, "We've both lost our boys." Because of course, Pless's grandson was going to go to prison for this. Pless was astonished, and he went to Azim's family memorial for their boy that his grandson had killed and apologized to the family. I think how brave you have to be to do that. Then the boy who committed the murder was sentenced as an adult, 14 years old, and he was sent to Folsom Prison. And Azim, the father of the boy who was killed, was appalled. I mean, how do you do that to a child? He found out there were no school books, so he took him school books so that he wouldn't lose his entire education by being locked up. And he stayed with it year after year and told him, "When you get out, I'll give you a job." The two men, Azim and Pless, teamed up. They go into schools and talk to the children about forgiveness and the terrible toll that revenge takes on everybody. And the kids are in there saying, "Wait a minute, your kid killed his kid and you're here together?" I mean, they're just blown away. And they have gotten thousands and thousands of kids to sign nonviolence pledges that they will never, ever hurt another human being. So, okay, Tony is now out of prison, and he is indeed studying to be in the trades, and he's going with them into the schools, the three of them, to talk with the kids. I mean, the biggest curveball imaginable, right? I mean, okay, Helen Chu, this is a very recent thing. She was doing a flu study. She's an MD. She was doing a study of flu, the spread of flu in Seattle when this strange thing about Corona hit. And she said, "I think we should test the flu samples we already have to see if that virus is in any of them." She was ordered to stop immediately because her lab was not certified to do that. She was only supposed to collect samples and, analyze the samples. She wasn't to do anything analytical beyond that. She just ignored that, and she went ahead and tested for Corona. And she found a teenager who had already had it for weeks when nobody thought it was here, and he hadn't traveled anywhere. It was here. It hadn't come in from anywhere else. So she said, "We need to tell public health." And all her superiors say, no, you're not authorized to share that information with anybody. And she did it anyway. So the public health services could begin to say, "Oh, we're dealing with something quite different than we thought. This isn't coming in from travelers, it's here. Now we make our next moves." She is now honored like crazy for being so disobedient. But at the time, it was really extraordinary. That she's now working on finding people who have had it and what are their antibodies and can we use those to help other people? All because she took the initiative. She made it up in the moment, Systems, rules, institutions will always be stuck in what the old rules are. crisis hits, they can't cope. It takes people like Dr. Chu to say, I'm not following the rules. I'm going to work on this.
So Ann, you've given us 3 stories of your heroes, and what strikes me in being a visionary for a more creative life, and the mission of the American Creativity is to catalyze people in all walks of life to be more creative. I think about what are the rules of the road to get there. And one often hears that necessity is the mother of invention.
Mhm.
But that wasn't true for Beverly. So I was thinking with Beverly, she had compassion. Her story was one that she had experienced something and could see it in others. And that reminds me of compassion being the mother of invention.
Mm.
And then you talked about Azim and peace. And that certainly wasn't an act of necessity as the mother of invention to go into the jails and bring the books. But it really was, for you said it, you said he acted from forgiveness. And
Mhm.
I wonder if forgiveness is the mother of invention in that case.
I think it's the compassion factor is the big one. You
Okay,
know,
so those 2. And
compassion,
then
courage, or courageous compassion, either way you put it.
there you go. And then the third one with Dr. Chu, you said she did it anyway. She took the initiative. So doing it anyway, taking the initiatives are the mothers of invention in those stories. But for me, you've quite expanded the entryways to being more creative. And I also like framing these courageous acts also as creative acts. And
Absolutely.
that's that being in that frame of mind reminds us that our world is limitless when it comes to opportunity. We haven't even begun to answer all the questions or create all the new inventions or make the world a better and more creative place.
Mm.
Uh, Now, I'm reminded that you're writing a book now, and I was looking at the early galleys. I think it's called The Breadcrumbs, and you talk about improvising a creative life. That could be a fourth way on the road to creativity. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I keep seeing it in what these people do. It's like life throws them an unexpected event, a curveball, and they have to quick make up a reaction. What do I do with that? And that's in philosophy that goes back at least to Socrates, and all the Stoics, of saying yes to life and making your next move from there. You don't say, no, go away. I'm not accepting this. It's just a waste of time. You have been thrown this ball. Take your best shot at it. So that I started laughing when I realized that's the basic rule of improv theater. Your fellow actors say something and you can't say no, that's not what we're going to do. You have to say yes, and you take it forward from there. So improv theater and the Stoic philosophy of amor fati, love your fate, take it, run with it. It just struck me as hilarious that those two quite different things really are the same.
Mm. Mm. You were telling me about the print when I first talked to you about the principles of improv, and there was some story about Joseph Campbell who lived the end time of his life in Hawaii. I remember
He
being in
did.
he would talk for those of us who lived in Hawaii. I used to go, and I heard of some of his presentations even then. And there was something you talked about. Did you want to share that?
Yeah, I did the same thing in New York. Before Joe moved to Hawaii, he would pop up all over New York, and somebody would call and say, "Hey, Joe's talking over at the church. Let's go." And we just go and listen to him. And then I drove my partner to Esalen, drove down from San Francisco because he was going to give a weekend training session there. And I saw that Joe was there for the weekend talking about Parsifal from Friday through Sunday. Oh, okay, I'm staying. I will do this and stay. So we got to sit on the rocks at Big Sur with Joe at night and talked to him and just had a fabulous time, going through all of this. And I realized after uh, driving back up the road to San Francisco, that's why I'm stuck on telling those stories. Joe was talking about the holy fools, the people who just won't listen. Here
Mm,
are the rules. Here's what we do here. This is how we do things. And they just say, and go off the other way and do something extraordinary.
mm,
And
mm.
that's what I'm finding. I am finding this time, our era, holy fools. And
I
yeah,
love,
I
I
mean,
love that.
and when we were back in New York, I had lunch with him and I told him that. I said, now I know why I am obsessed. This archetype you came up with of the holy fool has got me. I can't, it won't go away. So I've been doing these stories for 40 years. Also, I got to ask him, after all your study of all the, these stories, from all over the world, what's your personal belief about how the world works?
Hmm.
And
And
and he pulled a little clipping that big out of his wallet, and it was about a policeman who went to a call on the Pali Bridge
the
where
public lookout.
there was a jumper.
Hmm.
And he got there and jumped out of his car and grabbed the guy just as he was going over, and almost went over himself because of the momentum.
Hmm.
And he was asked later, like, why did you do that? And he said, I saw him, I couldn't not do it. I mean, he was me and I was him, and I had to, he said, that's what I know about human beings, that when we don't have time to think about it, we will do that. So I've given talks a lot. And if you say that, I mean, it's kind of extreme, like, oh God, would I don't know if I would save somebody from jumping off a bridge. I say, okay, if you're walking down a crowded sidewalk and you see people coming toward you, and one of them is kind of disheveled and looks drunk or sick, you're gonna go around, because you have time to think about it. You think, that's not good. I don't know, get away from that guy. But if you are walking toward him and he's right here and he falls, your arm will go out, because that's your instinct before you have any time to think about self-preservation or self-concern. A fellow creature is in trouble and your arm will go out.
Hmm.
So that's what Joe had to say about what he believed. And also the Robinson Jeffers poem, he had that in his pocket too. It's one called Natural Music.
Mm.
And it's about hearing the beauty even in the ugliness. Say no to nothing is the basic message of the poem. And
Mm.
we're back to amor fati. Say no to nothing. We're back to improv. Whatever life brings you, say yes and figure out your move.
Yes, and pivot
Give it.
your way. Well, it sounds like Joseph Campbell's been an influencer for you, and on your website, you have quite a large section on influences.
Mhm.
And could you tell us about who's had that kind of impact on your work and in your life?
The biggest one on my work has to be Chris Alexander. I don't know if you know a pattern language, which is like a cult book among architects on how to build with soul. Um, no tech, no ego, just here's how you make beauty in architecture. So Chris is very, very revolutionary in a profession that is really based on technology and ego. I mean,
Mm.
you look at most structures and you think, okay, uh, I wouldn't want to live in it, but okay, that's interesting. And Chris's work, he never knew where it was going. He came here, we had bought some land in the woods, and he just came and sat here. thought about it.
Now you're talking about Seattle, where you're on this island.
I'm on an island north of Seattle,
Uh-huh.
almost to the Canadian border.
And that's you and Chris in the photo,
Yeah, there he is.
building the house you're in now.
Yeah, I'm see where that is. I am straight up above that. There's a second story on the house, and
Oh,
I'm right above that place where we are in the picture. Um, so he had to submit plans to the county to get building permits, but he said don't pay any attention to them. They're just to keep those people quiet. And what he did was he just figured out the lay of the land, the way the trees were, the way the light went. And we went and got sticks in the forest and string, and he helped us pound them into the ground in the shape of the house he thought should be here. That was the beginning. You know?
wow,
Glenn
beautiful.
didn't care about the plans. And then he never went away. There was not this thing of, okay, here's your plan, go build a house to a contractor. He formed a company with a builder to build the house. And he was here day after day after day as a master builder, which is a very old tradition of how
Right.
things used to be built, you know? So
Well, an old tradition with improv thinking.
totally improv, constantly. Once the structure was in place, he wrapped the whole thing in paper and cut the windows in by hand from the inside, just to say, okay, if it's here, how does the light go? What do you see from there? And then he'd say, no, that's not good. He'd tape it back up and put the window in a different place.
Wow.
Everything built in wood here was first built full size in cardboard.
That's amazing. In the islands, we have a lot of interesting architecture. And I can just see that the Hawaiians tuning in, and of course around the world out in nature, are thinking about this improvisational way to be part of the environment and create your dream home. But most people don't improvise their lives or their work. It's a scary idea, isn't it?
It really is. And I think we're so, as societies, almost all societies, we're so committed to, there's a book of rules, and all you have to do is get the book. And, whether it's the Quran or the Testaments or, whatever, there are rules, and all life is just about following the rules. And I don't think that's very interesting.
Well, tell us about that. You've come up with some creative art and ways to think about that. We have about 5 minutes. I want to make sure we get your life's work now coming forward.
Yeah, well, for me, it's always been storytelling. And one of the things I wrote in Breadcrumbs was watch what little kids do, because they're telling you who they are. I got in big trouble at home because my kindergarten teacher told my mother I was a storyteller, and that my mom thought that meant I was telling lies. And it meant that I was taking over the class to tell the children stories.
And you've never stopped telling them.
It stuck, they should have known who I was right there. But my dad was career Navy and very old fashioned. He was that generation. And he knew that who I was this cute little girl who was going to be very charming to one of his junior officers. And if I picked the right one, I would get to be an admiral's wife. Ah. So I had to work my way through college because Dad didn't believe in educating girls.
Yeah.
So one of my breadcrumbs things is watch what the kids do, because they'll tell you who they are and you need to help them get there. I wasted decades not knowing that I was supposed to be doing this.
Oh, but you're getting closer. Just on those giraffes, do they have names, those 2 giraffes
Oh,
that you drew?
okay. Stand Tall is on the left, and you see his spots are S's. And Beatrice Tall, bee tall, is on the other side, and you see her spots are bees. And I created them to tell the hero stories to the little kids because they'd rather listen to an animal than a person.
Oh, that's adorable. I remember seeing that artwork when you came to the American Creativity Association, and we awarded you for your creativity and your giraffes project. And I was intrigued, and I think people around the world can look at your logos and the giraffes project, and many times I go somewhere and they've heard of the work that you've done. And
Oh,
I
good.
think over oh, it's absolutely true. I think you've given an award to someone in Hawaii. Who was the woman in Hawaii that got a Giraffes Project Award?
Oh, Judith Jenya. Yeah.
Tell
Yeah.
us about her in maybe just a quick minute or two.
Oh, wow. She created a camp for kids in war-torn zones, and she
Wow.
pulled kids out of Bosnia. She pulled them out of South Central LA just to give them a relief from all the horrors that they were living in. Yeah, she's lovely.
Well, another necessity being, in that case, a mother of invention, but also compassion.
Passion. Yeah. Yeah.
If you
She
were
could
to,
feel what they felt. She knew.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And so you remind me of the work that's been so prevalent lately with Dr. Brene Brown, and being your authentic self and
Mm.
being vulnerable. And where that takes me from your stories is these people are working from truly their authentic self.
Yeah.
The life they live and understand is and have achieved through any kind of peril is the one that they can share. They're not telling you how to act, they're being how to act, and
And
then
they
and
tell
sharing that.
you what to do. Yeah. Can we put Linda Ellerby up?
Yes.
Yes. I worked with her on trying to get a television show about Stan and Bee for telling the stories. And we failed, but we tried hard. And the thing I loved that she said was, I've always loved my question authority button. And she said, no, in Nick News, when she was giving the news to millions of children, she
Mhm.
said, I don't tell them to question authority. I tell them to question everything.
Oh, oh,
Isn't that lovely?
that is lovely. And now that you are telling your stories, and now that you are breaking the rules, it seems like you're much closer to being to being your authentic self than you have ever been. And I'm looking
It's
forward.
about time. I've
Yeah,
only, how much time have I got left? Come on.
well, yeah, that's a playful topic with you. I think, didn't you fix on your date for your exit strategy and
Oh,
every
yes,
year
found
that?
it. Mhm.
Yeah, what is that date?
Okay, I have to look. It's uh I have it over my desk. It says 7:03 p.m. November, Wednesday, November 18th in 2026.
All
So
right.
5 years about.
We're all invited to the party. I hope you're going to have a big one, and it's just been a delight, truly, to have you share your springs of creativity and innovation, and really your joy and the way you live life with such gratitude. And I just want to say mahalo and aloha to you and to our watching audience. Well, I was going to say we were just about ready to let you go, but we have a question from a viewer. The viewer wants an example of how becoming a giraffe changed their life.
Their life. I'm not sure I understand. I mean,
Maybe the awardee.
well, yeah. Oh, I see. I see what you mean. I get messages from people, it's so dear, where they say, I thought nobody cared. I thought nobody noticed. Thank you. It's validation.
Mhm.
What they've been doing is, and messages that say things like, people told me I was crazy, but you told me I was a hero. Thank you. That'll keep me going 5 more years. I didn't expect that. I thought the stories would just have meaning to the people who saw them or read them. I didn't realize how much it would mean to the people who get the commendations. Because we've never had any money. We've never been to say, oh, you get $10,000 for being a hero.
Right.
All we do is send them a commendation and a letter and tell their stories. And it's so touching how much that has meant to so many people.
I see.
Hmm.
Thank you. And we thank the listeners for their questions, and there'll be a blogging and a question and answer opportunity afterwards on the library of the shows after we can include this question and others. And truly pleased to have you, Ann. Thank you very much. And the final aloha.